Some souls never stop loving, even after goodbye. Every night, outside a quiet hospital, a lonely dog waited in the cold. People walked past him without knowing he was carrying a heartbreak deeper than most humans could understand. But sometimes, the purest love stories are not told by people at all. Every night at exactly 11:40 p.m., the dog appeared outside the hospital entrance. Rain, snow, cold wind. It never mattered. He always came back. At first, nobody really noticed him. Hospitals are busy places. People rush in, people rush out. Everyone is carrying something heavy inside them. So no one paid attention to the lonely dog sitting quietly beside the emergency doors. He was thin, his fur dirty from rain and dust. One of his ears bent slightly downward, as though life itself had become too heavy for him to carry. But the strange thing was, he never barked, never begged for food, never approached anyone. He simply sat there every night, watching the hospital doors, waiting, always waiting. Then, one cold winter evening, a night nurse named Emily finally walked over to him during her break. Snow drifted softly beneath the streetlights. The dog slowly lifted his head as she approached. Up close, his eyes looked tired. Not dangerous. Not wild. Just sad. Emily crouched beside him carefully. "Hey there." The dog remained silent. "You waiting for someone?" For a moment, he only stared toward the hospital entrance again, then slowly lowered his head. Something inside Emily's chest hurt unexpectedly. The next night, she brought him food. But strangely, he barely touched it. Instead, he kept staring at the doors, waiting, as though someone important would walk through them at any moment. Days passed. Then one evening, an older janitor named Marcus saw Emily feeding the dog. The moment Marcus looked at him, his expression changed completely. "You know this dog?" Emily asked softly. Marcus nodded slowly. Then, after a long silence, he whispered, "That dog belonged to a little girl named Sophie." Emily quietly sat beside him. Marcus looked toward the dog. She was only 8 years old. Snow continued falling through the empty parking lot. She had leukemia. Emily's heart sank. Marcus pointed gently toward the dog. "His name is Benny." For months, Sophie had stayed inside the hospital for treatment. And every single night, her father brought Benny outside the building so she could see him through the hospital window. Even when she became too weak to stand, she always smiled whenever she saw Benny waiting below her room. Marcus smiled sadly. She loved that dog more than anything. Emily slowly looked toward Benny again. The dog remained perfectly still, eyes fixed on the hospital doors. "What happened to her?" Emily asked quietly. Marcus lowered his eyes. "She passed away 3 months ago." The world suddenly felt silent. Emily slowly turned toward Benny. And finally, she understood. He wasn't waiting for food. He wasn't lost. He was waiting for Sophie. Every night, he returned to the last place he had seen the person he loved most. Emily covered her mouth softly. Marcus whispered, "Dogs don't understand death the way humans do." Just then, the hospital doors opened. Benny immediately stood up. His tail moved gently. Hope flashed inside his tired eyes. But seconds later, a stranger walked past him. And slowly, Benny sat back down again, still waiting, still believing. Emily felt tears burning behind her eyes. From that night on, she stayed beside Benny every evening. She brushed his dirty fur, brought him warm blankets, sat with him during the cold, silent nights. But no matter how much kindness she gave him, Benny never stopped watching the hospital doors. One evening, Emily finally whispered softly, "She's not coming back." Benny looked toward her quietly, as though some part of him almost understood. Weeks later, a terrible winter storm covered the city in snow. The hospital staff worried Benny would freeze outside. Emily searched everywhere for him that night. Near midnight, she finally found him. Curled beneath Sophie's old hospital window, covered in snow, weak, shivering, barely breathing. Emily rushed him inside immediately. The veterinarians did everything they could, but Benny was old, too tired, too heartbroken. Emily stayed beside him through the entire night, holding him gently in her arms. And just before sunrise, Benny slowly opened his eyes one final time. His tail moved softly against the blanket, as if somewhere he had finally seen Sophie again. Then quietly, he closed his eyes forever. The next morning, Emily placed Benny's photograph beside the hospital entrance. Underneath it, she wrote, "Some souls love so deeply, they never stop waiting." Maybe that's the heartbreaking thing about love. When it is real, a part of us never truly stops waiting. And perhaps animals understand something humans often forget, that love is not measured by time, money, or words, but by loyalty, memory, and the quiet decision to stay, even when the world has already moved on. Some souls come into our lives silently, yet leave behind lessons we carry forever.